The Paul Leslie Hour, helping people tell their stories. And now, your host, Paul Leslie.
Hey, it's me. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to this man, John Frinzi. He exists in the southeastern United States. When you keep going south, and I don't mean Nashville, I'm talking about deeper down into the south. I'm talking about where the sun almost always shines. In fact, some people call it the Sunshine State. John Frinzi is a Florida troubadour, although he has New Jersey beginnings. He is a singer, songwriter, recording artist, a prolific performer. He writes some very captivating songs, and I've also had the pleasure to hear his interpretations of other writers' music. So, John Frinzi, thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, Paul, it's great to be with you. Thank you so much for having me on.
It's our honor. So, as I was just mentioning, the story begins in New Jersey.
That's correct.
Tell us about those early days in New Jersey.
Well, I grew up in northwest New Jersey, right on the Pennsylvania border in Warren County, pretty rural, actually a rural county, and a lot of dairy farms. And I was lucky enough to grow up with two older brothers and a father who were great music fans, had big record collections. So that's where it started for me, digging into those record collections with of my family. And they had great taste in music, and I kind of just dug in and started listening at a young age. And my little record player in my room, and shortly after I decided I wanted to play piano. So after listening to some Elton John, I became a piano player, or I got a piano, I should say. So that's Jersey. That's how it started for me in Jersey, and I started playing in bands very young. I started 15, 16 years old. I was working with guys older than me, which was a great experience and a great learning experience.
Now, would we be correct to assume that the name Frinzi is Italian?
It is indeed. Sicilian, as a matter of fact. My father's mom, my grandmother, came from Sicily. Although interestingly enough, after almost a year of it sitting on my desk in my office, I finally did one of those DNA tests, and I found that I'm not completely Italian, which was pretty interesting and eye-opening for me. So I'm excited about that.
So tell us about the music that you would say has made the biggest influence on you.
Gosh, there's so many. I'm such a big fan of all different styles or many different styles, I should say. And but I think as far as the music that comes out of me, I think I was influenced mostly by kind of 60s and 70s kind of folk rock and singer-songwriter and bands like the Beatles and the Byrds and definitely John Sebastian and Love and Spoonful, Fred Neil, all that great stuff from the 60s, and then in the 70s, Jackson Browne, the Eagles, CSN, and of course Jimmy Buffett was a huge influence. I was back to my family. I was lucky enough to have my dad and my two brothers were huge music fans, and my oldest brother, Mike, would make me mix cassettes when I was still in high school, and I would put these mix cassettes in, when I'm driving around in my old Nova, and there would be a mix of Buffett and Jerry Jeff Walker and the Eagles and CSN and all this great 70s music. So that's really what I grew up listening to.
Now, some of the artists that you mentioned there, of course, are folk musicians, but how would you describe the John Frinzi sound? What would you say if somebody had not heard your music and you were trying to describe it?
Oh, that's interesting. I've never been a big fan of genres, or labeling. I mean, there's just, it's It's acoustic. It's kind of country. It's kind of folky. It's kind of pop. It's kind of, I wouldn't call it jazz, but it's got some of the songs have some kind of jazzy chord changes, and definitely some kind of poppier, jazzier influences, and chord structures and stuff. In addition to all the bands and artists that I talked to, the folk rock guys, I also was a big, huge Elton John fan, and Todd Rundgren, and later on a big Michael Franks fan. Still am a fan of all of those. Michael Franks, the jazz singer, but definitely pop jazz, and all of those were big influences. And the stuff that I tend to record is it's got a little bit of everything in it. It's definitely. I mean, if somebody had never heard my music and put it on, some might call it country, some might call it country rock or folk rock, and some of the songs are, a little bit more intricate, maybe. Maybe have a little bit more of a poppier or jazzier influence to them. I'm not sure I answered your question.
No. It sounds like you're saying that your music is a cornucopia of different styles.
Indeed, yes, it is. Yes, for sure.
Interesting. It's cool because increasingly we're finding that in our modern times, where we have such an incredible ability to listen to different kinds of music it's all at your fingertips. You find more and more
absolutely.
people. Yeah. You find more and more people who say, I listen to everything.
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't necessarily listen to everything, but I still listen to new music. I'm one of some of my favorite I could talk about the music that I love for hours. I mean, the stuff that I'm listening to now, I'm listening to newer kind of rock bands and singer-songwriters like Josh Rouse. I'm a huge fan of Josh Rouse. And, bands like Dawes. I love Dawes. I love Vampire Weekend. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty wide range of things that I'm listening to and inspired by, I'm kind of obsessing on. Are you familiar with the band Dawes?
I am not.
Oh, you have to check him out. Taylor Goldsmith, I think, the lead singer guitar player, is an absolute genius. And, in following these guys, it's an interesting kind of crossover because they were always considered on their first couple albums to be, kind of like these young guys with this 70s kind of sound, and they actually went out and actually opened for and then toured as Jackson Browne's backing band on one tour. So that kind of give you an idea of their abilities. And then their new album is completely wild. It's just such a wide range of styles. Every song seems to be different, but it's all cohesive and it all works together. And boy, yeah, I could talk about the music that I love for days, easily.
So how did you get in Florida? How did you come to Florida from New Jersey beginnings?
Well, I guess I have the Meeting of the Minds Festival to thank for that, probably. When I was still living and working in New Jersey, I was invited down for my first Meeting of the Minds Festival, the Parrot Head Festival in Key West. It happens every fall. And this will actually be my 20th year playing this coming fall. So I had no idea that there was an audience for what I was doing, because even when I was playing music, and I was playing music all the time, the covers that I was doing and the songs that I was writing when I was living up in Jersey were a little left to center. For instance, I was playing kind of obscure, cool old Jimmy Buffett ballads in my mind, and a lot of people didn't know what the hell I was playing. When I was introduced to this audience of Buffett fans, it really clicked for me, and I thought, oh my gosh! And then I started to come a couple times a year. I would come down and I would do maybe a week in Key West and then a week playing other shows throughout Florida. I think that really nailed it for me. I knew I needed to. Well, first of all, I was never a fan of cold weather, even as a kid. So getting out of New Jersey was was a matter of time, I think, and my wife probably really made the big push where she said, "Stop talking about it. Put the house up for sale and let's do it." So I have Margot, my wife Margot, to thank for that, and all the I had this fan base in Florida before I moved down here, so it was a pretty easy move, and I was able to come down here and work and stay busy, and I certainly love I love the climate, I love the beach, I love where I live in Florida, so it was a pretty easy decision and a pretty easy move, actually, much easier than I thought it would be.
Do you think that there are any misconceptions that people may have about living in Florida?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Misconceptions. No, I think I don't think so. I think it's pretty straightforward. There's certainly a lot of, nut jobs down here. The Florida man thing. There's tons of crazy people and tons of crazy tourists, and the beaches are beautiful and the weather's warm. What else? Disney's kind of nuts, what else? No, I think people, misconceptions about Florida. No, I don't think so. I can't think of one.
I mean, I guess the one thing that, maybe some people have an idea about, I'm going to run away to either Florida or I'm going to run away to the Caribbean, and then all of my problems will go away too.
Maybe people are just dreaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people do. I would say a lot of people do run away to Florida, and successfully. It's depending where you're coming from, it can be pretty wonderful, and parts of Florida can be very, very affordable if you're trying to run away and hide. Yeah, and I think that's part of why it can be kind of nutty down here too. People go crazy from the heat.
So, what is the John Frinzi approach to songwriting? How do you write a song?
Oh, I've got a pretty good system, actually. I rarely finish a song on my own. So I have a lot of ideas, and I keep a notebook. And I've been lucky enough to have met and continue to work with a lot of other great songwriters. So most recently, I've been writing a lot with Aaron Scherz. So co-writing is a big thing for me. I have a lot of ideas. I think a lot of them are good ideas, but finishing songs on my own can be a struggle sometimes. There's really only a handful of songs over the years that I've written by myself. At least a handful of songs that I would still play live or let anyone listen to. So I think the approach is get an idea, get something down, get something started, and then find the right person to finish it with. I've done a lot of writing with Tom Corcoran, who's a great writer, and Aaron Scherz and some other folks. Yeah, I love to collaborate. Lyrically, musically, it's just exciting for me. I only generally get so far writing on my own, so I just love to collaborate. That's been very, very successful for me, or very helpful for me in writing songs that I think are good.
Is there anyone you can think of that you would like to write with? Maybe it's a dream of yours. Anybody who's still with us?
Wow. I don't know. That's a great question. I don't consider myself a great writer or a prolific writer. So for me to visualize putting myself in a room with someone who I idolize as a writer, like a John Prine or somebody like that, is pretty scary. You know what I mean? So I've gotten to write with Keith Sykes, which was an amazing experience. He's rocket fast. And I said to Keith when we were writing together, I said, "Oh my God, I feel like I haven't offered a whole lot. A couple of lines here." And he says, "Oh, that's okay. That's how I feel like when I'm writing with John Prine. He's the same way." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So it's just levels of ability, but yeah, I can't I mean, it's interesting. The people that I do write with, I feel, like there's a connection there, and that we can kind of understand each other's abilities and qualities, and I think maybe Donovan Frankenreiter. I like to write a beach tune with Donovan Frankenreiter. Are you familiar with him?
Oh yeah, interesting choice.
Yeah, really cool. I like his groove stuff, and I think I would be comfortable writing with him. I just saw him recently at a show, and he was great. He put on a great show, and lyrically, I think that there are some similarities there. I think that we could write a good song together. Man, all the other people that I idolize as songwriters and musicians, I would be scared to death to walk in a room with them.
Interesting. Yeah. You've shared the stage with some really legendary artists. The late Jesse Winchester, Mac McAnally.
Yeah.
Todd Snider.
Both sweet. Yeah, well, he's not so sweet.
Well, maybe you could tell us about the Jesse Winchester experience. He was just such an incredible songwriter and a great singer, too. What are your memories of the experience?
Oh, that was tremendous. I have been a Jesse Winchester fan for many, many years. When I had the opportunity to open for Jesse up in Virginia, it turned out to be his last show. And it was a very small show, and it was close to where he was living at the time, in Virginia. And I flew up there with Tom Corcoran, my friend, and I do a lot of co-writing with Tom. We flew up and we got there early, and Jesse was there early, and just got to hang out with him and kind of in an empty club, and it was, in the afternoon, sound check, and he was the sweetest guy. He was quiet and sweet. And when he got on stage, he was just brilliant and funny. Yeah, he was a kind person, and he was just brilliant. Just him and then gut string guitar, nylon string guitar, and yeah, it was amazing. And at the time, he was working on his last record with Mac. Mac, produced and played a lot of the instruments on Jesse's last record, and at the time they were working together, and I had done a couple of shows with Mac by that point. So it was a little something I could relate to Jesse and talk about. It's something we could talk about, other than, oh my God, Jesse, you're amazing. And, it's kind of fan stuff, I have to, a lot of times I don't say anything, like when I got the chance to open up for Mac, all I could do was thank him 100 times. Like, Mac, thank you so much. It was incredible. What do you say? I'm always at a loss for words, trying to not sound like a knucklehead when I'm talking to people that I am a great fan of the music.
So what is Mac McAnally like when you get to know him a little better, when you get to see him face to face and talk to him? He like Jesse, even more so, because I've had the opportunity to kind of, I've got to open for him a couple of times, and then, down in Key West, we've gotten to, he jumped up on stage with us a couple of times, and, he's just like one of the nicest human beings, genuinely so nice and so kind. An example would be it was only a couple of months ago, 2 months ago, Mac played a sold out show in Tampa, this beautiful listening room in Tampa called The Attic. And I got to open for him at this show. And I got in there and I was doing my sound check, and Steve Huntington, my friend Steve Huntington was there also. And Steve offered to intro me for my little opening set, a little 25-minute opening set. And the sound person, who was one of Mac's associates, a sound guy who traveled with Mac, I said, do you mind if Steve intros me? He says, actually, no, Mac's going to intro you. I'm like, what? So Mac came out and did this glorious introduction about, I used to be the oldest opener in Nashville, and and, it was sweet. It was just incredible. And I couldn't believe that, Mac took the time to come out and introduce me as his opener before his set.
So it's just that solidified for me that he's just kind human being. Really, really, just outrageously nice. I don't know what else to say. He's so brilliantly talented too. I mean, he can play and sing anything, but on top of it, he's just one of the nicest people I've ever met. And I have to say, I mean, I've had the chance to share the stage in small ways with a lot of wonderful people. A lot of guys in Jimmy's band, almost all the guys in Jimmy's band. Well, actually, all the guys in Jimmy's current band and a bunch of the others. And every single one of them is just like down to earth, kind as could be. They're just the nicest people, Mike Utley, Pete Mayer, all those guys. I mean, they're just the nicest people. They really, really are.
What is it like performing in Key West?
Oh, well, it depends, just like that. That's a difficult question to answer. I mean, the big stage shows are pretty incredible. It's always great fun. The advantage I have of performing in Key West is that when I'm performing in Key West, there's always a group of fans that are there, whether it's the Meeting of the Minds Festival or if we're doing Key West Songwriters Festival. We're lucky enough to have a lot of people that know our music that are there, and the audience makes the show always, every time. And it's just, for music, the Meeting of the Minds, I had another festival in my brain for a second. For Meeting of the Minds, it's such a well done event, and then we get to play, we get to play with most of the Coral Reefers that are there, usually either popping in or out or something that's scheduled, and it's pretty fantastic. That setting is beautiful, great festival, well run, and we get to play with a lot of amazing musicians. So it's great fun. And again, this is my 20th year that I'm going to be doing this, which is hard for me to believe. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, and it's still exciting. It's still exciting to get down and play these shows, and it's a cool place. I love Key West.
It's just astounding. 20 years of playing that festival down there. So tell the listeners out there, what does John Frinzi like to eat when he's in Key West? Because as a lot of people know, you can eat quite well in Key West if you have an appetite. So what do you eat? Where do you go? Tell us the skinny on that.
Oh, that's hilarious. Wow. Oh, there's so many great restaurants. To be honest with you, I don't often get the chance to go out and have a great meal in Key West. I'm usually running from show to show, or El Siboney is one of my favorites. It's been around forever. That's the Cuban place. I love El Siboney. If I'm in the mood for a burger, the Salty Angler is amazing. The burgers and the fish tacos and all that, just great stuff. The Salty Angler on Duval. I guess the place I probably visit the most is Five Brothers Deli on Fleming Street, because I'm an early riser and I always go up there for breakfast. If there's one constant, it would be I hit Five Brothers Deli in the morning, and I'd get my egg and cheese on Cuban and a large cafe con leche, and that's, yeah. And the sandwich, all the sandwiches are great there. It's been around forever. Local joint. And I know I'm forgetting 20 others, but my old favorite used to be Dennis Pharmacy. That was the place. It's a bank now, but that was the Dennis Pharmacy had the little diner inside, and you go up and get a cheeseburger or whatever, $4 or something. I'm dating myself. But anyhow, there's so many great places in Key West. Great Italian food. I mean, the place right around the corner from Margaritaville. I can't remember the name of it. No. I don't know. That's a poor answer to a great question. I don't know.
Oh no, I could. I don't think that was a poor answer. I could see the sandwich and the cafe con leche in my mind, and
oh yeah,
I haven't had dinner yet, so immediately I was thinking.
Well,
I don't mind telling you this. We mentioned briefly Todd Snider, which you've had the chance to share a stage with.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be telling anybody something they didn't know, because for anybody who listened to that interview, you could tell I don't think in my entire life, in fact, I know I've never interviewed someone who was more drunk. So, what are your recollections? Do you have a Todd Snider story, or what are your memories of sharing the stage?
I do have a Todd Snider story. Yeah, I opened for Todd in New Jersey a long time ago, many years ago. It was at a radio station. It was an Americana radio station just outside of Princeton, New Jersey, and the station was in a 200-year-old blacksmith shop, and they had converted the upper level of this into a loft, and that's where they had these concerts. And you could squeeze about 40 people, maybe 45 people into this. It was a beautiful venue for small acoustic acts. And I got to open for a handful of great people there. And the Todd Snider show, I was there early. I got my sound check in. Across the street, there was this matching stone bar that was probably 200 years old. I forget what it was called, but I was at the bar hanging out, and I get this tap on my shoulder. Maybe I was sitting there a half hour, and I turn around, and there's this guy, and I knew it was Todd. He's like, "Hey, I'm Todd Snider. Got any pot?" That's how he introduced himself.
Oh, that's wonderful.
I sort of can't make that up. And, and then, we went over and did the show, and Todd kind of got frustrated and played for about a half hour and just left, which was not uncommon for him, especially at the time. So, I don't know him at all, but I've only read the reviews. So, but yeah, that was my Todd Snider. Hey, I'm Todd, got any pot? That's how he introduced himself. Just like that quickly. Yeah. So
very interesting.
So anyhow.
You were mentioning one of your songwriting collaborators earlier, Tom Corcoran, and I'm curious to know if someone who writes novels, if it's any different writing songs with somebody who writes books.
It is absolutely, and it's definitely different. Writing with Tom Corcoran is different than writing with other writers that I've worked with. There's a lot of imagery in Tom's words, which is pretty cool. And sometimes he can be. There's a lot of words to sift through when we started writing together. He writes songs. I guess that's a novelist would write songs in long form. There's a lot of words, very wordy. So it's definitely a different vibe than, say, writing with Aaron Scherz, who's a Nashville, hit songwriter. And he gets to the point and boom. And we're just going to get to that hook and two verses and a chorus and we're done. Some of the songs I've written with Corcoran are pretty wordy, and it's a different experience, yeah, for sure. But then again, writing with, and Tom's the only novelist that I've written with, so I can't compare him in that way to anyone else. I can only compare him to other songwriters that I've written with. Yeah, everybody's different. Everybody has their own style and way they approach things, and I am grateful, very grateful to be able to work with both of them or others. Working with Keith and Aaron and Corcoran, they're all amazing writers, and they all have different styles for sure.
Is there a favorite place that you have played?
Wow, favorite venue? No, I don't think I have a favorite venue, but I definitely have a favorite style of venue. I mean, I play a lot of small listening rooms where the announcement is made before the show that this is a listening room. Turn your phone off, and if you need to have a conversation, step out back to the bar or whatever. So I love them. There's a great one in, the place that I opened for Mac in Tampa was amazing. That's called The Attic. It's called The Attic it's over a brewery. Rock Brothers Brewing. It's over a brewery. It's a beautiful listening room. It's one of the best listening rooms I've ever played in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's called the Hideaway Cafe, and that's an amazing room. I love that. Where I opened for Jesse up in Virginia was another amazing listening room. And I love house concerts too. I just did I just got back yesterday I did a whole East Coast run, about 3,400 miles in 10 days, and it was good. I played a lot of house concerts, and I love that type of venue too. There are people where I get to tell the stories and play the songs, and people are interested. They're there for the music, and they're for the kind of the quiet storytelling, which is kind of cool. I enjoy that. I enjoy seeing shows like that too. So yeah, I mean, I've played venues like that all over the country, and I just love it. I love playing intimate shows where it sounds great and you get to interact with the folks that are there to see the show.
On the note of interaction, what's the most flattering thing someone's told you, or the thing that someone has told you that's been the most touching?
I've had a number of people come up to say that a certain song has really helped them through a difficult time, which I've always found just amazing. I mean, I can relate to it because songs mean that to me too. I mean, songs, they'll celebrate, or they'll help you get through, or they'll be therapy. So I've had a number of times I've had people come up and say, hey, I have to tell you, I was going through this, or was ill in some way, and a song that I wrote really helped them through that. And that's amazing. I mean, that's, to me, that's what music is supposed to do. So I've been lucky enough to experience that. Pretty incredible.
What is the best thing about being John Frinzi?
I don't know. That's an interesting question. I don't know. I think anything that I would feel selfish answering that question. The best thing about being, I guess I've just lucked out. I'm a very lucky human being. I get to do what I love to do, and people seem to like it. I get to keep busy and call this my life. Playing music is my work, and I get to work with some incredible musicians, insanely talented musicians and writers. And so I guess the best thing about being me would be I got very, very lucky somehow. I'm not sure how, but I'm a lucky guy.
I have very vivid memories of watching and hearing you perform down in Key West. And one of the things that I remember so much is just how you interpreted the songs in your own way. And there was a bit of jazziness to what you did, to what you do, I should say. It's got to be an incredible blessing to be able to touch people, that somebody can remember what you do so well. And I know that there's a lot of people who love your music because I've heard from those people. So I want to thank you, John, for coming on this show.
Oh, well, thank you, Paul. I'm honored. I've listened to many of your podcasts, and I was I think I told you when we spoke before, I was a little nervous. You asked some tough questions, and I really enjoy your show, and it's been my pleasure. I'm honored to be part of it. I hope I've answered your questions, and in a way that makes sense. Sometimes I have a tendency to go off into tangents. So
I've absolutely enjoyed talking to you, but I always like to end the show. I like to give the guest the stage. I'd like to let them just take the microphone. There's all kinds of people listening in. A lot of them, I'm sure, are familiar with your music, but then there's other people who maybe are just dropping in for the first time and becoming aware of you. So what would you say to anyone who's tuned in?
What would I say to anyone?
Yeah.
As in a piece of advice?
Not necessarily a piece of advice. Maybe, just, it could be anything. Totally open-ended. You have the platform, so to speak.
Oh boy, that's.
It doesn't even have to be about music.
Well, yeah, okay, good. I would just say to anybody who's listening, do something that matters, whatever that is, even in the smallest way. Tomorrow morning, do something that matters. Make somebody's life a little bit easier. Yeah, I think that would be great. Can you imagine if everybody did that?
Yeah. Wow. That's a great thought.
Well, it's the first thing that came to mind.
Do something that matters. I like that. Anyone out there, if they want more information or to get in touch, it's johnfrinzi.com. Frinzi, johnfrinzi.com. Mr. Frinzi, thank you very much for spending time with us.
Oh, Paul, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it.
It was an honor. Until next time.
Thank you, Paul.
God bless.
Take care.
Pop, pop, a doodly zing bang, booyah ducky, japadoona cockaboodly ka, sabiti bonka chila pakadoo, zilla bonka total luck upon goodbye.